All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CalChiro Live. Hopefully, everybody got their text messages and have been paying attention. I know we've been gone for a little while. We're trying to tighten some things up for the broadcasts and find some new sponsors and things like that, too. So, if you know anybody that's interested in being a sponsor for the program, please connect them with me or Shasta or Kelly or somebody along those lines, and we'll get them all set up because we still have some money in the bank to give away, but always looking to find new sponsors to help us continue the broadcast and that kind of thing. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. Wanted to remind everybody that we will be having the Seaside Spring Symposium coming up March 20th. The lineup is looking strong. Hopefully, I think Shasta will have us a registration link here to put up in just a minute for the Seaside event. I saw something there. Getting close. There it is. All right. But star-studded lineup. My buddy Larry Adams is going to be there. He's the president of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. We've got Dr. Krista Burns. Dr. Jason Deitch will be there as well. So some heavy hitters coming in for the Seaside Spring Symposium. It'll also be streaming live. So if you wanted to just catch it on the streaming side, you're welcome to join us that way as well. We've made a big transition to streaming this year, so if that's what people want. But remember, there's no replacement for being in the room, for having that community, being able to share with other chiropractors just what we're doing and why we're doing it. We also, you can see up here in the corner, we got our fall conference coming up in La Jolla at the end of the year. We've got a star-studded lineup this year. Pediatrics conference in August, sports symposium is in June, I believe, also down south. What am I forgetting? Oh, the PI symposium. Yep, PI symposium. That will be sports. I'm sorry, sports is in May. PI symposium is in June. I know I should have been looking at the list that Kelly sent me. I apologize, everybody, that I'm all over the place. But more importantly, log into the site, log into CE21, check out our events. If you've switched over to the Elite All Access Premium membership, you get one free event per year as part of that. We've got Legislative Day coming up, April 14th. That's always an important one. Lots of initiatives on the animal chiropractic front, on fair pay legislation that we're trying to craft. And as you will find out more today about from our guest, we have a lot to talk about in the world of personal injury and just getting treated fairly. So let me bring up our guest for today. Here is Dr. Anthony Pirritano. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good. I wanted to bring Anthony on because he's just like the rest of us. He's a practicing chiropractor here in California. He's been really the tip of the spear when it comes to helping raise money against this Uber initiative. If you're not familiar with that, we're going to explain it to you here in just a minute. But Anthony, just tell us a little bit about yourself and, how long you've been in practice, that kind of thing.
Yeah, been practicing here in Southern California for about 34, going on 35 years. The practice I bought has been in practice, one continuing practice for about 85, 86 years. So a long-standing history in the Crown area, and we've gradually grown to have multiple offices here in the Inland Empire.
Excellent. And so then, tell us a little bit, I guess, about the Uber initiative, if people don't know what the Uber initiative is right now, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I didn't know much at the beginning either. I just heard something out there, just rumblings. That it was just kind of what most people seem to say. They just heard of it. They don't know much about it. They've just heard of it. So, basically my journey with this whole process was there was going to be a Zoom call. A lot of docs were going to be on the Zoom call to explain the Uber initiative. And my whole thought was, look, it's not my problem. We do it right. We practice right. We practice high quality care, and we do it effectively, and we do it at the right price points. So I didn't even bother getting on that. Then there's a Zoom call the next week that I did get on because it irked me. I like to be informed with what's going on out there. And at the end of that call, I realized, I'm not part of what caused this problem, but the problem is going to affect all of us in the state. And so I just am not one of these people to kind of sit by and just hope someone else fixes a problem that could affect me and or my practice. I love what I do. I love my colleagues. I do a lot of lecturing out there. We just have some of the neatest people in our industry that you just see, just a neat collection of people. So basically, I inform myself. So what's happening with the Uber initiative, especially with what it relates to the medical providers? Basically, kind of in a nutshell, it's going to limit access to patients for quality, timely care. And what do I mean by does it limit access? Well, first of all, what the Uber initiative does is it does two things. One, on the legal front, is they are proposing 75% of the settlements in a personal injury case will go to the patient versus now what you see commonly 30, 35%, 33% to attorneys. Then the doctors get their payment, then the patient gets what's left over. So when you hear is a person out there who's had a PI case, they're going to say, oh yeah, I'd love to have 75%. Okay, so the ballot initiative, if it gets on the ballot, it's probably going to pass because people want to vote for that. What they don't realize is what else is tied to it. So one such thing is, first of all, 25%, that's not just for the attorneys and their profitability. The medical costs also come out of that. So basically, with such a low margin, law firms are going to close shop. They're not going to be doing personal injury law because it just doesn't make sense. But on the medical side, they're going to limit our charges to 125% of Medicare. And obviously, there's not many Medicare practices out there with chiropractic, for example, because our reimbursements are so low. You were talking about a minute ago about fair reimbursement. And well, obviously Medicare is one of the lowest reimbursements. And the reason why you do not see a lot of Medicare practices out there is because you can't pay the bills and take care of these people the way you should. So that's why the patients won't get access to care, because you won't have providers wanting to do that. Pain management for an epidural injection, I believe the reimbursements is around $160, $165. And I don't even know if that covers the supplies in specialty. So specialty will take a hit. Also in the state of California, our healthcare system's challenged. Just walk in any emergency room, even if you have good insurance, PPO insurance, which is not what PPO insurance used to be, how long do you have to wait for an MRI? You do not find someone going in 2 days later or 3 days later to get an MRI. So when you kind of do a little deep dive in AI, there's an estimate of between 7 and 9 million personal injury treatments get done each year. So can you imagine another 7 to 9 million visits being dumped into a healthcare system that is already at best? It'll break the system. So that was kind of my journey and how I decided, okay, we need to get involved. And then a group of docs and a couple other people in the industry formed what's called the PPC PAC. You have the QR code up there. Yeah. And it's Providers for Patient Care. And the goal is to raise funds to help fight this initiative from the provider's perspective. That'd be chiropractors, pain management, imaging, et cetera. The attorneys have formed their own PAC. They're doing their own thing. They have their own agenda. And from what I understand, our agenda is basically trying to educate the public through print and airtime, et cetera. But first, before we educate the public, we got to educate ourselves.
Right.
The biggest thing. I talk to so many docs out there who simply don't know what the issue is. So that's why I was happy to come on today to explain some of this. So I'm kind of rambling. Do you have some?
No. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things for people. So they're actively out there gathering. Uber's actively out there gathering signatures right now. I was just talking to a patient this morning. I was telling Dr. Pirritano, who actually collects signatures for ballot initiatives. He told me that they're paying $7 to $10 per signature right now, and they got a lot of money out there. So it's most likely that this is going to get to the ballot. So then it becomes a matter in my mind of how do we combat this after the fact. And that's where the PPC PAC really comes in, I think, is in terms of their PR initiatives and their strategy that they're going to implement and things of that nature. And I'm sure, I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Pirritano, they have regular calls that you could get on to talk to the other people that have donated to the PAC and meet some of the board members. We've already talked with Matt Bernstein. Is Matt's part of the board, right?
Yeah, Dr. Bernstein is the chiropractic representative on the PPC PAC.
Yeah. So if you wanted to know where the funds are going and things of that nature, right? And if you can clarify real quickly, there's also a group called the COC, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
That's the attorneys that are doing the same type of thing, because, many people said, oh, well, this is really an attorney's fight. Well, yeah, maybe to some extent, but like you've just outlined, I think we all stand to lose, in the event that something like this is able to be passed, because most people aren't educated and don't really know what they're voting for. And that's what we really have to do. So if you wanted to, well, I know you also have an event too that we wanted to talk a little bit about in terms of that. But if anybody has any questions, please post them in the chat and we can answer them directly and things of that nature. Because I think, there are a lot of questions about what will happen in the event. Maybe you can explain this. What kind of line item expense is personal injury cases right now for Uber?
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I can tell you Uber is putting between 100 and 200 million dollars into this initiative. And so that tells you, like any business, if you're going to put this much, you're going to save this much. So, and they're doing this. It's not just California. They just got done doing this in Nevada. They're going state by state. They've just taken the fight to California at this point. And so it is a big battle. And CAOC is the attorney group. They have their strategy and what they're doing. The doctors have just a little bit strategy on what we're doing. We've raised about $5 million so far with the doctors. And, again, it's the doctors. I hear two things when I educate them about it. First, tell them, here's what's going on. One of the first things say, well, it's not my problem. Okay. And then I kind of explain to them how it's going to affect you. And then the gentleman the other day said, well, I only do like 2 or 3 cases a month MPI. Right. So, well, that's $60,000 to $70,000 a year, right? And he kind of looked at me and said, yeah. I go, well, could you take that haircut? Right. Because that's what's going to happen. And for those of you, I've been practicing a while, like I said. I remember we never really did much work comp back in the day, but I saw it decimate friends of mine who had heavy work comp practices. They were closed the next day. So this has the same, if not worse, effect for our profession. And look, I'm all for making our industry better. When I do my lectures, that's the first thing what we're trying to do is make personal injury better and make chiropractic better. This is not meant to improve a particular field or help take some of the fraud away from PI. That's not what this is for. This is just one big dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company coming in, saving money and putting those costs on the people who can't afford it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they just want to reduce that line item expense, to a great extent. And so that's their motivation, right? And they're doing it through the ballot because they couldn't do it from a regulation perspective. And can you shed some light on how much money has COC raised?
Yeah, I don't know the number right currently, but I know it's between 20 and 30 million, and they need to get to 100 million. Their goal is 100 million. The provider pack is 10 million. We're halfway there. And,
okay, great.
And it's a timing issue. Look, this is going to go on the November ballot. That's what we're fighting against. This money needs to get in the kitty sooner or later, so a plan and the resources can be thrown at that plan. And one thing I need to add, for those of you like me who are hey, I'm getting ready to retire. I've already done what I've done. My revenues are, I got my accounts receivable. There are some legal opinions that this will affect your accounts receivable. So for a patient you saw 2 years ago or a year ago that has not been settled, that is going to be worth a fraction of what you have. So let's say you have a $2,500 bill or a $2,000 bill, it might be worth $600. Mm-hmm. And so that's just another big knife in the back there that can be decimating. I mean, it's tough enough to say, okay, moving forward, we're going to adapt and change. Well, it's going to affect things you've already spent resources on with your accounts receivable. That's huge. That's a big deal.
Well, I have a couple of questions here. I wanted to see. So it says the 25% cap basically kills taking patients on lean, right? Question mark.
Yes, that's going to include the medical expense. That's going to be the attorney's piece, and the medical piece will get split. So it's not going to make sense. These law firms will be going away.
The comment goes on to say, because there's not enough room. I lost it right there. Hold on just a second. Let me see. There it is. Because there isn't enough room for the 25% for both lawyers and providers. So either lawyers or providers won't take the case. Basically, that's what's really going to happen.
Yeah, it's not only will the attorneys not take the case because they can't afford to keep a sustainable business going, but again, if you can afford to have a Medicare practice, and great, more power to you. But again, we're not these PI mills. We have quality care, good modalities, good staff. We take care of them, and to deliver a quality product, obviously there's costs. We all know what that's involved, and that's a problem. And again, my concern: these people aren't going to get access to the care, and the care they do get is probably going to be some people doing something shady just to try and make a buck.
And I think about how important it is in these cases many times to share the responsibility, like you said, with other providers, not just chiropractors, but either pain management specialists, folks like that are participating in the case and should be, But I got another question here. It says, interesting. Does that mean attorneys will not be fighting that hard for them, I guess, meaning the injured party, I guess?
Well, they won't be fighting at all. I mean, that's the thing, is most of these law firms have said they cannot financially do it. And the good law firms out there don't have huge margins. Right. I mean, we see some of these law firms that are big and they've got millions and millions of a month in marketing, but the good firms also that are out there are small to medium, they're going to disappear. Or they'll do they can pivot to other types of law. Okay.
Yeah.
We are what we are. We can only pivot to the patient base that's out there. But here's the thing. And for the people that think, I don't do PI, this is just going to affect PI. No, it's a slippery slope. We've been fighting for our market share for decades, and it's been getting diminished, healthcare in general. So don't think this is going to stop at PI. You don't think if their PI is going to lock you in a percentage of Medicare, you don't think the PPOs are going next, which they've already dropped. All kinds of reimbursement across the board will follow. So we need to fight. And at some point, if we don't band together and fight, we're in trouble. And that's why we're trying to think outside the box. Again, this PPC is not just chiropractors, pain management, surgeries, and you name it. Everybody's jumping in. But that's why I'm wearing the old golf hat today, because we're putting together a golf tournament that's going to be in Orange County, Dove Canyon, on March 23rd.
Okay.
And it's going to be a great event. You guys have the flyer and the QR code up there. Anyone can always reach out to any of us for information on it. But we're trying to raise money where we're going to have a great golf event that's going to be there. We're going to have a dinner. We're going to do a State of the Uber initiative there, which we've got some of the biggest hitters in law in California will be there on the panel during dinner after the golf event, sharing where we are. Where is the attorney PAC on it and their strategy? Where's the PPC PAC? There it is.
Oh, there it is. Good.
Yeah. So the goal is to come out and just have a good day, trying to think outside the box for just writing checks. And guys, look, the thing I want to say, and I know, Phil, you're on some of these threads that are out there. For example, on WhatsApp, PPC does have a thread. All you got to simply do is contact PPC and be added to that thread where we're communicating back and forth very readily. And we need new blood. There's a lot of us that have written multiple checks since September of last year to help fund this, but we can't do this unless the industry jumps in as a whole. We just need more people to participate. And look, granted, $100 doesn't do much, but 100 times 100 adds up. Okay. So, in my opinion, if you write a check, it needs to hurt a little bit, or it's probably not enough, quite frankly. When I see a friend of mine, I was just talking to a friend who's talking about his colleague who put in $1,000. Okay, great. Sounds great, right? He just went out and bought a $300,000 car the same day. And it's like, don't you understand the ability that you've been blessed to have that may be going away. So it's priorities. So everybody thinks the big law firms are going to write these $1 million checks, and they have actually. Okay. But we all got to do our part. We really do. And you got to look at your budgets, your marketing budgets. And if you're spending that much a month, then you got to look at moving some of that money over. That's just my personal opinion. I've had some pushback. Some people have said, I don't want to be on any type of list. It's public who donates. I said, look, if I'm on a list that shows that I am fighting for my patients' access to care, sign me up twice over, because I'll fight for that all day long. I've been doing that since day one. So, again, there's lots of excuses out there. People don't like to write the check and do what they need to do, but it's what we need to do, gang. It's why even just being a member of CCA of CalChiro, people fight writing that check. It's not that big of a check, but these are the times that we need to band together. And if we don't start doing it, and I know the efforts of getting membership up in CalChiro over the years has been tough.
Yeah.
People don't see the value. Well, now you do when you're getting attacked.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I was going to say, if there's anybody on here with us today that isn't a member, it really helps us to support these kind of initiatives, with membership and that type of thing. So it says, I had just a couple of things. I guess they're more statements. So in reality, they pay less for PI cases. That's correct, right? And that's why they're pushing and funding it to save them money. So those were, I guess, just more statements.
Oh yeah, for example, Uber drivers used to have to carry $1 million policy per Uber driver, right? They got the state to drop it to 60,000. Okay, so it is what it is. That's what they did. They're just like any business. They're trying to save money, and so again, they are going to say, what happens if all the lawsuits go away? How much do they save?
Yeah,
right. So it's significant. And by the way, I want to make a quick point, because people ask, what happens if this goes away and they negotiate a settlement in June, July? What happens to the money that's there? The money's going to stay in the PAC, because people would be honestly, they're not thinking right if they think there's not going to be another attack against the profession in a year or 3. So this war chest stays there, and it helps our profession, and not just chiropractic. It helps healthcare. And it's really neat seeing the providers, everybody's really jumping on the bandwagon and banding together and working together. So it's good. If anything, I think this Uber initiative is bringing the healthcare providers in personal injury closer. We're communicating. We have a deep appreciation for each other, for those that have stepped up and written those checks, because it hurts. It's not something I anticipated writing. And so it hurts, but it's I think it could be I always like looking for the positive. I think it could be a really good thing for the industry. And I think it will help the industry self-regulate and get better when we beat this thing down.
Well, like you said, it usually takes some kind of crisis for something like this to really start people to start listening, kind of thing, right? As is many things in our lives and in this profession and that kind of thing. So, well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. So hopefully people saw the flyer for the golf tournament down in LA. If they wanted to get involved or sponsor a hole or anything like that, there's an opportunity for that. The QR code you saw for the PPC PAC to learn more about that as well. Anything else before we try to give away some money today?
Last thing, just contact the PPC, get on the WhatsApp thread. Great conversation. Everybody's giving input. It's good camaraderie there.
How would one get on the WhatsApp PPC thread?
If you get on the PPC website that you had the QR code there earlier, and you hit contact us, or they could simply direct message me and I'll pass that information along.
How do we direct message you?
Well, I tell you what, since you'd have to be on the WhatsApp to do that. So,
all right.
I tell you what, let's do this. What I'll do, I'm going to give you my cell number, because I love who our colleagues are. So anyone can give me a call. It's 951.
Maybe Shasta can put this in the chat for us.
Okay, cool. And I think she has, it's 951-906-3495. 951-906-3495. You can even text me and say, add me to the app. Here's my name, and I'll have your number, and I'll have that done. Anything we can do to help, guys. Like you said, it's not what happens to you that counts, but how you handle it.
She said, repeat one more time for us, please.
Sure. 951-906-3495. Excellent. And by the way, anyone at PPC here, they can contact me as well. But when you click the QR code or go to their website, there'll be a contact. Pamela is our legislative representative for that, and Dr. Bernstein, everybody on the board, they'll get you connected. We just have a lot of good people who are fighting very hard for our whole profession.
This is a well-organized thing. I talked to Pamela, and she works for K Street Lobbying, and so this is not a rinky-dink, give us your money kind of situation. This is a well-organized operation. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much for being here with us today and explaining that. And I'm sure we'll continue to do some collaborative things in this regard. So Thanks
Awesome.
again. But let's try to give away some money today, everybody. Before we go, we just got our registration page up for our pediatric event here today. So if you wanted to get in on the pediatric event, here's the QR code. We had a great time last year hosting the first ever pediatric event, and we will be. I'm sure you'll like this year's lineup too. But all right, let's bring up the wheel. You know, we got a lot going on. If you need any more information about what we got going on, this is when you're going to want to let your friends know to sign on. Remember, to win the money, you have to be a member of our organization. There's my boy, Dr. TJ, T Muffin in the house. You have to be on the chat and you have to say, I'm here within 30 seconds of your name being drawn by the randomizer. We've got $300 up today for grabs. So that means three names. Let's go. Name number one. Rick Morris. Rick Morris, you are name number one. Let's see if you're here to collect your money. We've had a good time with this, Dr. Pirritano. If you have any attorneys that you know that want to sponsor the broadcast, or any pain management folks that want to get in front of more chiropractors and things like that, certainly we have an opportunity like this for them to come and speak and that kind of thing as well, because not only about the PPC stuff, but about their own businesses. So that would be tremendous.
Awesome.
Dr. Morris was a past speaker, somebody's telling me. Okay. Rick Morris. I don't remember Rick Morris being a past speaker, but that's okay. I'm not seeing Rick Morris. You'll have to fill me in on who Rick Morris, what he spoke about. So, but let's do name number two. If we have no Rick Morris, let's do name number two. Sasha Binder. You're name number two. Let's see if you're here. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Doc?
Oh, no, I said it was a no-brainer. You will get people to sponsor.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It's like I said, this has been kind of my pet little project here, trying to create some awareness for the association and bring our community together. And I think it's been fairly successful. At least the feedback I've gotten so far has been good and that kind of thing. So
Awesome.
I got some regulars that come on with us all the time. We gave away almost $900, I think, right before the end of the year. Most of the time we've given away money, it's been right in that area of $900 and that kind of thing, which that really starts to incentivize people to come on the broadcast. So
you better believe it, and they get some good info.
Yeah, that's right. And you get educated. Hopefully you're coming for the education and the value in learning and that kind of thing. So, all right. I don't see. Okay, we've got some clarification here. Rick Morris was a chiropractor in Santa Monica. Okay. But I still don't know what he was here talking about. But let's do name number three. Name number three. Antoine Corey. Your name number three. Let's see if you're here to collect your money. Well, once again, I really appreciate you being on with us today and doing all that you're doing. Highly encourage people to check in with them or text them if you want more information. Get involved in the WhatsApp. I will say, man, that WhatsApp channel, I have to mute it sometimes because that thing, holy smokes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of activity on there.
There's over 300 people now, and people have their opinions, which is great. We want to hear them all. Everybody gets
Well, it's great to see so many people getting involved. So, all right. I don't see Antoine Curry here, which is good news for all of our listeners today, because that means next week we will have $400 up, or not next week, because next week I'll be representing the Chiropractic Association at the Democratic Caucus event. So hopefully I'll be able to talk to some people there about what's happening with Uber if they don't know. I've tried to be the tip of the spear in terms of talking to legislators during my time here as president and now past president. And we've got a few other events this year for sure that are important. So any political action contributions that we can garner as well to our association and our PAC is helpful in securing the meeting. So thank you so much for being on again, and look forward to connecting more in person.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks. I appreciate y'all. And I know you guys are doing a thankless job some days, but we appreciate you being there.
Thanks so much.
All right. Tell Shasta we said hi. Thanks, guys.